Welcome back to the Bookcast. I am D.L. White, Atlanta-based author of romantic fiction featuring Black men and women. We have been reading The Never List by D.L. White. If you'd like to purchase this book in ebook or paperback, head to my website. It's booksbydlwhite.com/books. If you click on the book cover, it will take you to a link where you can purchase this book at any retailer you want. Also, stay tuned for updates on when this book will be available for your library to order. You can request it at your library when it will be available on Hoopla and Scribd if you have a subscription there. If you'd like to join my newsletter, hit booksbydlwhite.com/newsletter, and you'll be added to my list. My newsletter is called The Occasional Update. That's because I only send it out occasionally. Let's get going. Chapter 12. Trey. It took little arm twisting to get Esme to take a ride with me. Truthfully, I was hungry, I hated that room, and I hadn't prepared what I was going to say yet. I needed the extra time to gather my thoughts. Order whatever you like, I told her, as soon as the hostess seated us at a small table in the corner of J. Christopher's, a casual breakfast and lunch diner with locations around the city. I'd frequented all of them. You eat breakfast, right? Yes, I eat breakfast. She glared, picking up a laminated oblong menu, although I'm more of a Ria's Bluebird kind of girl. I knew the place. Ria's was the type of spot where you could get a stack of pancakes the size of your head with a side of eggs, bacon, and a hot buttermilk biscuit with fresh homemade jam for under $10. Consider it an adventure. I'm starving, which is unusual for this time of day, but I eat when my body asks for food. I watched Esme in my peripheral vision. She studied the menu section by section, item by item. Meticulous, this woman. She scrutinized the menu like it was a contract. I've had everything here. The food's good. That's why I come here a lot. What are you in the mood for? She laid the menu down on the table and lowered her hands to her lap. Honestly, I'm out of my element. I'm wondering why we're ordering breakfast instead of working. Miller is paying a pretty penny for my time. Don't worry about Miller's pennies or your timesheet. If this deal goes through, his bills become my problem, and it's my goal to make this deal go through. A slim woman stopped at our table, a brown apron bearing the restaurant's logo tied around her waist. Did y'all have time to check out the menu? She asked, a southern twang accenting her husky tone. I glanced at Esme. She shook her head. I'm not hungry, but go ahead and order. Can I get you some coffee? Asked the waitress. Esme nodded. I placed my order for a breakfast skillet with steak, eggs, fried potatoes, and a glass of orange juice. She rolled her lips inward, then took a slow look around the homely, country-style restaurant. It wasn't much to look at, but I ate at J. Christopher's for the food. Tell me why we're here, Trey. I will. First, though, let's talk about that piece of paper that fell out of your bag the other night when you left the office. She chuckled, appearing calm, but I caught the slight dip of her head and tensing of her shoulders before she forced them back to natural position. What about it? Is it a list of stuff you want to do, like a bucket list? Bucket lists are morbid, but similar. It's a never list, things I've never done. I want to make a huge dent in that list before I turn 40 next month. What's it to you? What's it to you? You're defensive and evasive about it. You're unusually curious about something that isn't your business. True, I acknowledged. But it is important to you. Am I correct? After a beat, Esme nodded. You are correct. So? Why do you have a list of things you've never done that you need to do? It's a long story. I love a long story. I've got nothing but time. I'm waiting for my breakfast. Trey, she sighed, thrusting herself back against the chair and rolling her eyes to the ceiling dramatically. Maybe I don't want to talk about it with a stranger. I've spent more time with you than I've spent with my mother this week. We are not strangers. I'll be more succinct. I don't want to talk about this with you. Ah, I nodded. Now we're speaking truth. What if I say that I'm interested in helping you clear up that list? Esme froze. The temperature between us, which had been rising to a comfortable level, dropped like a rock. You're interested in what? You heard me. Let's knock some items off of your list. Esme tried to speak, but her lips flapped No sound came out. When her eyes rose to mine, they were blazing, her bottom lip trembling. Um, I was just starting to like you, so please tell me that this isn't your cute way of offering to fuck me, so I'll give in to all of your concessions on this contract. Tell me that, Trey, so I don't have to beat you upside the head with my damn purse. My brain flurried with thoughts, rolling my words back to me, analyzing each symbol. I hadn't said that at all. Um, I was starting to like you too, so okay, this isn't my cute way of offering that. Why would you assume that was what I meant? You said you'd like to help me knock some items off my list. Say, yeah, so? You think I'm the type of person to ask for sex to get what I want? This is what you think I'm about? You saw the list, Trey. I saw 2 lines. You threw a little tantrum and snatched it back before I could see more. What's on that list? None of your business, she snarled. Gratefully, the waitress took that moment to bring Esme a ceramic mug and poured a steamy cup of coffee. She rambled about the progress on my breakfast skillet, either not catching the thick blanket of tension over the table or not caring about it before leaving packets of cream and sugar and bouncing away. Look, I apologize, I blurted. I didn't mean to insinuate that you should sleep with me for contract concessions. That wasn't what I was trying to say. What were you trying to say then, Trey? I was trying to say that maybe we can help each other out. For every item that I help you cross off your list, you help me cross off one of mine. I need Miller to do some serious retooling of his proposal. He's in his feelings about his company and his numbers don't make good business sense. You have his ear. He trusts you. And you think that helping me clear my list will mean so much to me that I'll walk into Miller's office and fight for what you want? Not in so many words, but if he budges even a little bit on half the items I need him to revise, I'll consider it a victory. This sounds very close to unethical, Trey. Esme stirred cream and sugar into the dark brew and lifted the mug to thick, deep red lips. She sipped, then smiled, hummed a beautiful tone from the bottom of her throat, and sipped again. I know it sounds unseemly, and I don't mean it to be. I wanted it to be more of an incentive, a little give and take, some back scratching. I'm not asking you for sexual favors. She didn't say another word for a few minutes, sat there and sipped coffee and stared at the empty sweetener packets next to her mug of coffee. There's no way she didn't hear me, so I didn't repeat the statement. She ended the long pause by asking, why does it even matter to you? Being honest, if it wasn't a big deal, you'd have told me to throw it away. You almost beat my ass to get it back. It matters to me because it matters to you. And I'm hoping that if I help you with this, that you'll help you with this contract, she finished. I nodded, then leaned back as the waitress arrived to set a sizzling dish in front of me. The scent of a medium rare steak, crisp potatoes, toast, and 2 fried eggs wafted from the mini cast iron skillet, making my stomach rumble. Are you sure you're not hungry? I don't fuck with toast. You want mine? Without a word, she took the toast halves and laid them on a saucer, then poked through the container on the table for toppings. She chose strawberry jam and a pack of peanut butter, spreading one on each half. Let's say that I feel like risking my job to help you. How would it work? I hadn't thought that through, I said, wielding a steak knife to slice my steak off of the bone. But I'm serious about the reciprocity. I do something for you, you do something for me. If you feel weird about that, or it's not going to work, we can call it off now and go back to fighting each other in that conference room. That does not sound appealing. She bit off a piece of toast with peanut butter spread. Tell you what, I began, spearing a slice of steak and scooping a potato wedge with the edge of the fork. Let's try a couple. 1, see how it goes, all the way through. If you're not going to be able to change Miller's mind, it's a waste of my time and yours. Well, not mine. She smiled, holding the second half of her toast slice aloft. I intend to clear that list with or without you. My brows shot up. Go get her, huh? Felt the need to remind yourself of all the life you haven't lived yet? Esme's smile was sneaky and small, but it was there. I ached to pry, but resisted, reminding myself that she didn't respond to aggression. I had to let her meet me in the middle. After a few bites of toast from her and thoughtful chewing from me, she answered. I wrote the list to humor my cousin, who thinks I haven't lived enough. I plan to bullshit through a couple of them, then let it go because my cousin is flighty, he'll forget. But the more I think about it, She bobbed her head side to side. The more I feel like I need to do what I said I would do. So we'll give it a shot? See how it goes? Sure. She popped the rest of the toast into her mouth and chewed, then washed it down with coffee. It's worth a test run, at least. Good. I speared another slice of steak, then potato, and paused before taking a bite. Then the next question is, what do you want to tackle first? Chapter 13. Esme. Esme, wait, back up. You are where? Doing what? Jada had never been able to keep alarm out of her voice. If something bothered her, she couldn't hide it. Both of my sisters were tall, over 6 feet in heels. Both were an average size 14 and bottom heavy like our mother. Both were chestnut-toned women with pointed chins, chiseled cheekbones, and large, expressive brown eyes. That was where the similarities between my twin sisters ended. Jewel, the firstborn, was the cool, calm, and collected twin. She liked the blues end of rhythm and blues, the dulcet tones of smooth jazz. If Jewel showed an emotion other than irritation, shit was serious. Jada was younger by 9 minutes, and it showed. She was excitable, sensitive, and emotional. She liked Drake and Tamia, but also 3-6 Mafia and J. Cole, and was very much an empath, as evidenced by the high pitch of her voice through the phone. I was the one about to face one of my fears. I needed her to keep it together. My phone had buzzed in my bag as we left J. Christopher's, but Trey and I were talking, chatting, as if we were friends who had gotten along the entire time we'd known each other, instead of snapping at one another. I didn't want to cut off the conversation or be rude as we rode into town, and if it was Miller calling, I didn't want to talk to him considering I'd just agreed to conspire against him. Before I climbed out of the truck, I pulled the phone from my bag to peek at my messages, almost wincing with the expectation of a glut of missed calls and messages from Miller, but nope. He must be used to employees dipping out for hours at a time. Instead, it was Jada that had called, probably out of worry about the incident from last week. There was likely a mess of punctuated messages in the family WhatsApp group that I shared with my sisters and O'Neill, separate from the WhatsApp group we shared with my parents. Some things were not for the eyes of Jonas and Carol Whitaker. Jada had left a message demanding an immediate callback. She needed to hear your voice, to talk to you, to know that you were okay. I dialed her back, and she asked where I was because it sounded like a carnival in the background. Funny you should say that. I'm downtown. About to go on the Ferris wheel. My eyes skimmed the parking lot, focusing on the mid-sized crowd milling around downtown Atlanta, some headed towards Centennial Park, some toward the Georgia Aquarium and the World of Coca-Cola. Most people, however, were gathered in the ticket line for the main attraction. My eyes floated up toward the gigantic wheel in the middle of Skyview Park and the focal point of the area, especially at night when every light was illuminated. Every day, when I drove past it, I entertained an irrational fear that it would somehow break free from its base and roll toward me, crushing me in the car. I was about to break my personal rule of keeping one foot on the ground at all times. O'Neill would have been so proud of me if I could reach him to tell him he hadn't checked into the WhatsApp group since he left on his trip, and his phone was going straight to voicemail. Knowing my cousin, he was somewhere drinking Prosecco while being manscaped in an Italian spa. I was almost jealous. Hear me out, Jada was saying. You got punched in the head last week, and now you're at the Ferris wheel, an object that makes you shake with fear. Tap one time if you're being held hostage. I laughed because if I didn't, I might cry. I'm fine, I promise, but I am about to get on this wheel. Are you sure you don't have a concussion? Brain damage? O'Neill said you didn't go to the doctor or anything. Who's the president of the United States? Bill Clinton. I snickered. Esme. Barack Obama is my forever president. I told you, I'm fine. You cannot be fine if you're about to get on that Ferris wheel. You hate that thing. It leaves the ground. I'm just, being adventurous, I guess. Adventurous? All those times we tried to take you on rides and you screamed like we were trying to murder you? Now you're being adventurous? Trey was approaching, tickets in hand. He'd gone to pay for admission while I stowed my purse in the trunk. I wished I could have changed into flat shoes, but my Sam Edelman pumps would have to do. Hey, I've got to go. I'll call you later to let you know I'm alive. I hung up before Jada could reply as Trey reached me. He'd been looking at me funny all day like he wanted to ask questions but refused to do so. I expected him to pry into my business, but he didn't. I shoved the phone into a side pocket of my bag, then pushed it back into the corner of the otherwise empty trunk. I stepped back while Trey fished his key fob from his pocket and pressed a button. The trunk closed, then latched on its own. He pressed another button, and the muted click let us know that the vehicle was now locked. "Ready for this?" he asked. "As I'll ever be, I guess." We walked a few paces to the end of the line to get on the Ferris wheel. There weren't many people in front of us, and it was a nice afternoon, so the wait wasn't altogether unpleasant. It wasn't what I thought I would be doing with my afternoon. We both stood, awkwardly glancing at one another. Like I did whenever I was nervous, I launched into inane small talk. "Nice day," I lobbed. "Mm-hmm," he responded with a single nod. "Seems to be warming up. Might be a nice day, not too hot." "Might be." He did not want to talk, so I didn't want to talk either. But I was nervous, so I needed to talk or sing or dance or take my mind off the constant chant of what the fuck am I even doing? "I'm a little surprised I haven't heard from Miller, aren't you?" "No," he replied, super casual and quiet. He stared ahead, eyes trained on some object in the distance. "No?" I glanced up at him, using one of my hands to block the sun so I could see him. "Why not?" "Because I told him we'd be off site today. I told you not to worry about Miller's pennies." He glanced over at me and smiled. "Or your time. You're about to earn your paycheck." I groaned, my eyes catching the slow movement of the big white wheel with the enclosed baskets that didn't look so sturdy. I was sure a person could fall out of one. "Hey, I didn't mean to scare you." Trey grabbed one of my hands and tucked it into his elbow. "I'm sorry. I should be more considerate." "I'm not fragile," I snapped, then relented. "Sorry. It doesn't seem like a good idea. It doesn't look like it should work like it does." "But it does work. You know that, right?" "My brain does." My bottom lip crept between my teeth. I had to stop or I would chew the Fenty right off. "Have you never, ever been on one?" "Not willingly." "Not even as a kid?" I wagged my head. "I'd scream if I even got near one. My family stopped taking me to fairs and amusement parks because the ride scared the shit out of me. I never did the jungle gym. I never climbed the ladder to go down the slide. One year, my family decided to treat me and my sisters to a trip to Disney World." Huh. Considering you're still scared to get on this wheel, it doesn't sound like it went well." I shuddered, then told him the story that O'Neill loved to tell that made me sound even crazier and more dramatic every time. After the first day, if I closed my eyes, I could ride the rides that never left the ground. But those were boring, and my sisters wanted to do the big scary rides, and my parents wanted to go on them too. They had to take turns babysitting. Every few hours they'd switch. One would do some silly kid thing with me, and the other would run the park with the other two, or I'd follow them all around and hold the bags. I'm sorry, that sounds miserable. It was. We tried therapy, we tried talking, we tried exposure. I shook out my hands, realizing that I was shaking at the memories of my parents trying to force me onto rides. Eventually, the therapist told my parents to leave it alone. I would eventually make my way toward certain things, activities, places when I was good and ready. They never bothered me about it again, or anything else for that matter. So the time to move toward certain things is now. Right now. I squinted up at the wheel. Sort of second thinking, to be honest. Trey slipped a hand into his pocket. His gaze had moved from a far-off object to something on the ground. "I assumed your list was like a bucket list. I would have never suggested a tit-for-tat exchange with something so important. You still want to do this? Do you want to back out?" My head rose, my gaze following, high, then higher, to the top of the Ferris wheel, then zooming in on the two-seater bucket that seemed to swing menacingly back and forth with momentum, its occupants laughing and shouting, having the grandest time. I doubt I would be doing any of that. But I would get on that fucking thing. Today. "Listen, Trey. I know we've been fighting for the last week and everything. Water under the bridge. For real. I need you to promise me that you'll hold my hand and you won't let go and you won't let me fall out of that bucket thing and you won't laugh if I scream. Gondola. It's called the gondola and you can't fall out of it unless you force the doors open." Whatever, I said what I said. Deal? I cannot promise not to laugh if you scream. My eyes darted to his face where the corners of his mouth were tipping up into a smile. His eyes danced with delight. The rest? You got it. Our turn came sooner than I'd been prepared for. We tucked into a small, contained space that was all windows except for the bench and the wall behind our heads. Thankfully, we didn't have to share it with anyone. We sat back while the attendant, a friendly but loud older gentleman, gave out instructions before he locked the doors in place. Unconsciously, my hand shot out for Trey's. His fingers wound between mine. Y'all good? He hollered. You in? We're good, Trey answered. She's got a death grip on me, so we're not going anywhere. You're not scared, are you, little lady? It's a whole lot of nothing, just going round and around in this box up and down about 4 times. This a date or something? You're dressed real nice for this dirty old Ferris wheel. Impromptu change of plans for the day, Trey said. Then he gestured toward the doors. We're ready. My heart was in my throat, remembering the words round and round, up and down. You know what? Maybe I don't. All aboard! He stepped back and called out. Then he pulled the door shut. After a clang that made me jump and a shudder that made the entire car shake, the wheel began to turn, lifting us off the ground. I couldn't watch. My eyes slammed shut and I buried my face in the sleeve of his jacket. Trey, you're not going to throw up, are you? This jacket was expensive. No, I squeaked. I'm scared. I'm right here. He squeezed my hand and closed in his. I squeezed back. He flinched, howling in my ear. Ow! Damn, Esme! You don't need to dig those claws into me. I said I got you. You know when I was on the phone when you came back to the car, I rambled trying to keep my mind off of this bucket swinging freely in the air with us inside of it? Uh-huh. My sister called me. She runs a salon and day spa. Did you find that out while you were doing all of your information gathering? I wasn't gathering information on you. I was looking into your employer. Your sister runs a salon. Is it nice? Mm-hmm. One of those spots where they serve mimosas and wine while you're getting a pedicure. You know what I mean? Jada's Boutique and Day Spa. It's in Decatur. Have you heard of it? Trey was quiet for a moment. He probably thought I was crazy. Then, quietly, he answered, Can't say that I have, Esme. Does she have male clients? Yeah, men come in all the time. My cousin goes there. Anyway, she does my nails. And my hair. It's cute when it's not in a bun. She's responsible for these claws. I felt him lift our entwined fingers. He must have been closely inspecting the gel nails that Jada applied every few weeks like clockwork. Both are nice. She guarantees the nails are unbreakable. I guess that's good for you so they don't pop off when you break my skin. Seriously, ease up, Esme. I'm here. You're not going anywhere. I loosened my grip. A little. My face was buried in the smooth, decadent fabric of Trey's suit jacket. After I got used to the sensation and sound of the wheels climbing into the skies, I let one eye creep open and turn my head so I could see. I couldn't help the gasp that escaped my lips. Though it was midday, the view from above the city through the clear glass front of the gondola was breathtaking. Below, the 5 Olympic rings set into Centennial Park were remarkable. Straight ahead were the Westin Hotel, Peachtree Tower, the Promenade, the Equitable Building, and other glass structures glinting in the bright sunlight amid clear blue skies. Wow, I whispered. Imagine this scene at night. My favorite view of Atlanta is when I'm driving from my parents' place up north and the downtown skyline comes into view. I'm never prouder to live here than when I'm driving through downtown at night. I had barely taken it all in when the view disappeared and the wheel dipped, making its first revolution. Made it through the first round, said Trey. He elbowed me a few times, knocking me out of my reverie. How do you feel? I gulped, blinking away the fog and finding it easier to breathe, and moved my head so I could look around at the view. As we were closer to the ground and heading back up again. I didn't die. I felt Trey's light laughter. I shot him a dirty look. You said not to laugh if you screamed. I am screaming in my heart. And I didn't promise not to laugh. He pulled his hand from mine and dropped an arm around my shoulder. The imperceptible tremors that had been rocking my body since we'd climbed into the gondola subsided, and I could breathe. See? You're good. We're good. A few more minutes and we'll be out of here. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I can't wait to get out of this little box, but I'm good. So, while I'm busy doing something for you, we could talk about what you'll do for me. And I mean that in the most businesslike, not at all suggestive way possible. I know what you meant. So what do you want? He needs to come down on his asking price. Trey, I almost laughed in the man's face. You're asking him to come down almost $2 million. This little field trip is not worth that. Can he at least go back on what he agreed to with my father? He jacked up the price as soon as he knew I was taking over, and my nose is bent out of shape about it. I'll think about it, but I can't go to him off the strength of toast, coffee, and a Ferris wheel ride. Let's ease into this, Mr. Pettigrew. Here you go with Mr. Pettigrew again. I giggled, which surprised me because I'd never been on a theme park attraction and smiled, let alone laughed. I was 100 feet in the air in a tiny bucket next to an attractive man who had a protective arm around me. Let me find out Trey Pettigrew was going to be good for me. I never hear the end of it from O'Neill. All right, something easy. He was quiet for a few seconds. How about 45 days of health and wellness coverage for the employees we have to let go? That should include employee assistance like resume writing, therapy, budget counseling, the like. 45 days past the minimum that you have to offer them by law if you end employment? Trey groaned, tipping his head back against the metal wall of the gondola. It's not an added benefit if it's something you legally have to offer. Miller wants 90 days on top of the legal requirement. I could talk him down to half of that number. All right. Trey tipped his head forward again, then gave his best attempt at a side eye. You drive a hard bargain, Miss Whitaker. I wrinkled my nose. I don't think I like you calling me Miss Whitaker. Then you need to drop that Mr. Pettigrew business. The gondola came to a stop, and the door slid open. Y'all make it? Asked the attendant, hooking his head in and offering a hand to help us. We made it! I almost screamed. I stepped out, resisting the urge to drop to the pavement and kiss it. The ride wasn't bad at all. I still liked keeping both feet on the ground. Trey climbed out after me, adjusting his jacket. You good? How do you feel? I feel fearless. I sighed, stepping back to look up at the Ferris wheel. I was no longer afraid of that giant contraption. At least for today, I'm fearless. Fearless enough to hit the rooftop at Punt City Market? I paused. Don't get loose. I rode a Ferris wheel. Now you want me to get on somebody's roof? Trey's shoulders bounced with the laughter that rolled from deep in his chest. I'm not trying to kill you, Esme. I need you. But since we're out and we're already playing hooky, he shrugged, then smiled. Might as well ramp up the stakes, start a war, and bet I can beat you at skee ball. Well, seeing as how I've never played skee ball, you probably could. I like to think I make a worthy opponent, but I'm not going to anyone's rooftop. Come on, Esme, Trey interrupted. You said you felt fearless. In these shoes, I finished, kicking up a foot. Besides, shouldn't we head back to the office? Why? We're working. We're not. You got me to agree to healthcare coverage for furloughed employees. I don't talk about work on my personal time, so we must be working. I mean, I guess if you want to manipulate it that way, I'm just worried about what Miller's going to say. And I told you to stop. Do you ever relax? Let go? Have fun? Yes, when I'm not being paid to be at an amusement park. So it's a no on a skee ball tourney then? Trey was an immovable object standing in front of me at the edge of the park. I am not dressed for playing skee ball, Trey. From my head to my toes, I'm dressed for the office, which is where we should go. So I can talk to Miller about health care for his employees, which gets you 1 point closer to signing your deal. Tit for tat. That's the agreement, right? He sighed, then dipped his head slightly, his eyes rolling up to meet mine. Compromise? I returned his sigh. What, Trey? We go back to the office. We work or whatever. Tonight, jeans and tees, flat shoes, the rooftop at Pont City Market, drinks, food that isn't leftover pizza or sushi. I teach you to play skee ball. I might even let you win. I shook my head. Why would you let me win? Why wouldn't I beat you? You've never played skee ball. No way you'll beat me. Uh-huh. And this would be another one of your tactics to get what you want from Miller. You use me, butter me up, I feel closer to you, I fight for what you want. Nope, he answered. Not at all. This would be off the books. A one-off, a hangout. A hangout, he nodded. And I would agree to that for what reason, Trey? Because it's a theme. Because I'm trying to get to know you. And because you're doing things you've never done before. Chapter 14. Trey. When the idea to help Esme clear her list popped into my head the other night, I thought it was flimsy. Weak at best. I expected to have to talk her into it to prove the effort was worth her while. Her relationship with Miller seemed to be based on an immense sense of trust. I'd have to bring her over to my side, make her sympathetic to my point of view. And I'd have to carefully toe the line between playing the game and manipulation. There was no business goal to asking her to have dinner, drinks, and play skee-ball with me. I honestly enjoyed her company, which felt weird because wasn't she kind of the enemy? It was well after noon and midday traffic was thick. Satellite radio weaved through road noise and the sounds of Esme's nails clicking on the screen of her phone. Oh, turn that up. I pressed the volume knob on the steering wheel. Gladys Knight and the Pips, neither one of us, blared through the speaker system. I grimaced and grunted my appreciation into the air, raising a fist. What you know about Miss Gladys and the Pips? My parents take their era of music seriously, I know it well. Mine too. Pops loves his from Gladys Knight. And Diana Ross, and Aretha Franklin, and Patti LaBelle, all the usual suspects. Heard a lot of them growing up. My dad had this on reel to reel. Mine too. My mom had it refurbished for their 40th wedding anniversary this year. Those big ass speakers and everything. Sound is crystal clear. They'll bust it out in the summer when they grill out with friends or whatever. So he's the DJ. If you want to hear Midnight Train to Georgia at least 3 times. When the phone rang, I turned the volume down. It's one of my sisters. Do you mind if... I shrugged. If you don't mind that I can hear your conversation, just don't be telling lies about me. Hello, she said, bringing the phone to her ear. Yes, I'm alive. She laughed at one of those low, giggly, throaty cackles that surprised me. It softened her. Then I rolled my eyes at myself as I realized that, indeed, the woman laughed, and maybe she hadn't laughed or smiled in my presence because I'd been terrorizing her since we met. She continued her low conversation while I tried to focus on guiding the Acadia through traffic and tune out the sultry tone of her voice. It didn't work. Her low, dulcet tones permeated my ears and stuck there. I pulled into the parking lot at Miller Design and parked next to her Jetta. She ended her call and slid her phone into her bag. I'm going to head over to my office for the afternoon, I told her, leaving the truck idling. I've got work stacked up since I've been focused on this deal, and it's giving me anxiety. Trey, before you go, she had one hand on the handle to open her door but had paused. You want to thank me for a thrilling afternoon of facing your fears, huh? Her eyes rolled as they did a lot when we were together, but she also smiled. It was a thin smile, but it was there. Actually, yeah. I was talking to one of my sisters, the one with the salon that has male clients. Yeah. She wanted to make sure that I was okay because they've been trying to get me on that Ferris wheel forever and I've never gone. She shook her head, tipping at an angle and giving me a quizzical stare. I don't know what it is about you, but I felt safe up there. Thank you for today. You're welcome. That's one thing off your list, right? How many things are there? 10, she answered. My eyebrows must have betrayed my surprise. Do I get to know what's on the list? She paused, pursing her lips. I had to stifle a growl. Damn it, man, be cool. No, I think it'll be more fun for me if I get to tell you what you'll be helping me accomplish. If that's what floats your boat, it does. You said one of your sisters. How many sisters do you have? Maybe I'll tell you tonight. We're still on, aren't we? I'd been thinking of pretending that I'd never asked her to meet me. I wasn't sure that she'd even show up, and the last thing I wanted was to be stood up by a woman who seemed to wield a lot of power, not to mention my future, in her hands. But the way she glanced over at me, eyes wide, brows raised, a bona fide smile on those thick lips, yeah. We are definitely on. Meet me at the elevator at 9 Mile Station at 7. Don't be late. Do you need me to send you Google Map directions? She huffed, opening her door. I have already told you to not be worried about what I do and how I get there, Mr. Pettigrew. See, there you go. You call me Mr. Pettigrew when you get... She slammed the door in the middle of my sentence. But I was sure she caught my drift. That'll do her for today. We are heading into the midsection of the book, which is more fun things. So stay tuned for the next episode of the Bookcast. Talk soon.